Welcome to our Houndify webinar, Why Voice is Driving the Future of Auto, and thank you all for joining us today. Our speakers today are Mehul Patel, the Director of Product Management for the Houndify platform, and Chris Wilson, the architect of SoundHound's Natural Language Understanding System. We're accepting audience questions via the Q&A dialog box in your Zoom browser. If we run out of time, we'll be sure to respond directly to you after the webinar. For the best webinar viewing experience, please download the Zoom desktop client or the Zoom app.
Let's begin by talking about some of the key industry trends. First, voice adoption is on the rise, not just with millennials. Smart speaker proliferation has helped users become familiar with speaking to devices. Consumers are expecting to be able to talk to everything around them. 50% of all searches are expected to be made via voice by next year. There will be 750 million connected cars on the road within just 4 years, enabling many more people to use voice while they're driving. So it's not surprising that 94% of brands are starting to invest in voice AI and use it in their solutions within the next 2 years. The next major trend we're going to discuss is the growth of voice-enabled cars. The auto industry has been experimenting with voice for a few years, but they've never had real support for natural voice conversation with high accuracy. Now, with cloud connectivity and better voice solutions, next-gen voice assistants are starting to play a central role in our lives. For example, in the US, more than 50% of drivers are using voice assistant. We at SoundHound believe that it's a fundamental shift, similar to when mobile first began shifting lifestyle. And unlike other technological shifts, voice is a much easier transition as speaking is very natural to us humans. Now let's review how drivers are using voice assistants today. Most frequently, drivers use them for making a phone call or looking up directions to their destinations. Some drivers also use them for sending text messages and looking up local recommendations like restaurants. However, the overall usage still remains relatively low and highlights the fact that the solutions still need to be improved. Consumers expect technology to be more intuitive and have higher accuracy, and we believe the latest voice solutions will meet and even exceed those expectations. But this expansion of voice adoption isn't just creating a boom for automakers, it's also good news for other industries. As more people use voice, brands will find opportunities for new revenue and increased profits. For example, voice-enabled advertising, where you can interact with ads just with your voice, will be a reality soon. As time goes by, more and more cars are going to have built-in voice assistants. And as that happens, there are two key priorities for brands. One, build advanced and accurate voice assistants. And two, shape the technology to meet consumers' changing needs. Delivering on those priorities will result in a significant competitive advantage. At this point, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Chris to talk about the technology that's powering all this innovation.
Thanks, Mehul. My background is in a variety of different technologies over the years, all focused on software and interfaces between people and software. So you might think, oh, voice interface, you can just go get it off the shelf, plug it into your system. Doesn't work that way. They're not all created equal. They are very different, actually. So I'm going to talk about some of the things that are different from one platform to another and what may be important for your particular use. Okay, so what are these challenges? What are the things that are important for you when you're looking at different voice implementations? Well, one of the most important things is having an independent platform. So there are some providers of platforms who have their own agendas, and you have to be aware of their agendas. So some of them want to own your users. They're really looking at using your platform to get access to your users. And you want to own your users, then you want to look for a platform that doesn't try to take them away from you. Another one is access to a lot of pre-built domains. So some platforms will just give you the text that someone has said without giving a lot of meaning to it. So you want to look for, does it understand meaning in a lot of different domains? So we're looking at what goes into a complete voice AI platform. Now, traditional voice AI is just automatic speech recognition and then natural language understanding. So it throws it over the wall, you just get the words, and the automatic speech recognition doesn't have any knowledge of the meaning when figuring out the words. Now, that's not how the human mind works. The human mind is doing a lot of autocorrection. If you're trying to understand the words in a language that you don't know, you're going to make way more mistakes than in a language that you do know, because you understand what makes sense, what words go together, and the meaning of it. That's what is important to look for in a platform. So a platform that does these things at the same time, it just intrinsically can be more accurate. And it can be faster because by the time the person is done speaking, you already know what they were meaning. So an example of that would be if someone says, "What's the weather like in Chicago?" You know that that's a query that makes sense as a weather query. If they're saying, "What's the weather like in," and something like 3 p.m., "What's the weather like in 3 p.m.?" That doesn't make any sense. And so as a human, when you hear that, you think something's wrong. You think, did I miss one of those words? Can I change one of those words to something else? If you're just doing it as automatic speech recognition first, then natural language understanding, you don't get that chance to autocorrect. Now, if we're talking about autos in particular, autos have some particular requirements that other speech-to-meaning systems don't, including directional microphones, noise cancellation, and also profiling a user and recognizing that user, because often in a car you'll have the same user coming back again and again. It's just like in a car, the car wants to recognize how big that person is to adjust the seats and mirrors for that person. You also want to be able to conform to that person's preferences for a voice recognition system. Also, I mentioned earlier a lot of domains. Well, in auto, there are specific domains that you want to have to be able to control the car, to ask about what the weather's like along your route, things of that sort that are more auto-specific. So you want to look at your platform. Is it just a generic platform, or does it have these domains that are tuned specifically for auto? You want to look for a system that has both generic domains and customized domains. So when you have your product, when you have your car, you want the user to be able to interact directly with it. You want them to be able to ask, when my headlights burned out, how do I fix it? You want to ask, what does the little red light mean on the dashboard? All of these things are customized to your vehicle, and you want that kind of customized domain, but you also want to be able to select from predefined domains, and you want to be able to select from domains from different data providers potentially. If you have a data provider for navigation data, say in your vehicle, then you want to be able to have a voice domain that knows that same data. So you really want to be able to pick and choose the domains that you want, and you might choose not to have some of the more generic domains so that you can have more accuracy with the things that you do choose. And so you can change, you want to have something that lets you move that knob. So do I have lots and lots of domains that try to recognize lots of things, but maybe is a little bit less accurate, or do I really want to hone in on the things that are for my specific application and things that are really related to it, like navigation or weather? So you want to make those decisions looking at the platform that you're considering and how customizable it is in terms of turning on and off the various pieces of it and letting you customize pieces of it. So the next thing to think about is, how complex is your system? How complex are the queries that it can understand? Because when someone is speaking to a person, they're not speaking in short phrases. They're not always just saying, tell me the weather, show me restaurants, 4 stars, parking. That's the kind of thing that you do if you're at a computer, you're clicking on things on a website. But if you're talking to a person, you're going to say, hey, can you find me a restaurant that's open right now, has at least 4 stars, has parking, but exclude fast food? And that kind of complex query that a person will understand with no problem is something that not a lot of speech-to-meaning systems will understand, and you want to make sure that your system can understand that and not just look for keywords in it. For example, when I mentioned, but exclude fast food, if you're just looking for keywords, then you're going to think, oh, this person wants fast food. You really want to have a deep understanding of what the person is saying, the same way the person would have that understanding. And as another example, what's the status of United Airlines Flight 680 and how much is an Uber to SFO? There, you're really talking about two different domains in the same query, because the user wants to know their flight status and they want to get an Uber there. So in addition to single queries that have multiple parts, in conversations, people also add things. So they'll ask, show me nearby 4-star restaurants. Oh, and only show me the ones that have parking. Also exclude fast food. Those are 3 different queries. Based on what I see from the results of each query, I modify it, what I want to see in the next query. And that kind of conversational awareness is something that a person has and that a conversational AI system should have. So another issue that's very important for automotive is having a dual solution. So you want to look at something that is not just cloud-based, not just embedded. You want to have a dual system. So what I mean by that is that if you are cut off from connectivity, you're going through a tunnel, you're just in an area with no connectivity, that the system is still going to work pretty well. So it's going to do everything that it can using the resources within the car. If you say, unlock the doors, if you say, turn up the heat, if you say anything like that, navigate to the nearest McDonald's, anything that it can do with information in the car, it should be able to do with no connectivity. However, when you are connected to the cloud, you want to take advantage of that. So when a lot of cars these days, and more in the future, have always-on data connectivity. When you have always-on data connectivity, you can do a better job. So first of all, you can get additional information. If someone asks, what's the weather at my destination, then you're going to be able to answer that if you have a cloud solution. Also, you have more resources in the cloud, so you can give a better answer. You can put more resources to work. So what you want to look for is a solution that while the user is speaking, the user isn't even aware of it, but their voice is going to 2 different solutions. It's going to a solution in the car, and it's going to a solution in the cloud. And there's a mediator that's going to take the results of both of those in real time and give the best result. So if you suddenly lose your connectivity to the cloud, or if it's slow and you get a good answer from the local embedded solution, you're going to give that to the user right away. If the embedded doesn't understand, you might give some more time to the cloud, but you're going to still fall back to something embedded if you can't get the information from the cloud. And in this dual solution, you want to take into account not just the final answer, but the real-time transcriptions, the partial transcriptions that are coming back. So if someone's speaking, they might be looking at the screen and they might see the words that they're saying to help them know that the system is understanding them. And you want that to be seamless, a handoff between the cloud and embedded. If, for example, you get cut off, you stop getting the data from the cloud, you want to fall back to the embedded, but then you want to switch back over to the cloud as soon as that data is available because you're going to have more accurate data. So this kind of real-time solution that takes into account 2 sources of information and which one is more accurate and more timely is important. So now let's look at a checklist of what you really want to look for in a voice AI platform. So one of the things is a customized wake word and user experience, because you don't want your car to have to say, hello, generic wake-up phrase. You want it to be able to say, if it's a Mercedes, hello Mercedes. If it's a Honda, hello Honda. So you want that customizable wake word. You want a natural human-like dialogue capability. You want support for multiple languages because you're going to want to sell your vehicles, not just in places where they speak one language. You want it to recognize accents from many places. You want noise cancellation technology. This is particularly important in automotive because there's a lot of noise, wind noise, engine noise, and you want to be able to have the system still understand what the person's saying, whether they're still or moving with all of this noise going on. You want a dual solution. I talked about how important this is in automotive because you're not always connected, but when you are connected, you can get so much more information. You want directional microphones because that really helps if you have the driver trying to make a query, but someone in the back seat is playing some music or they're speaking. You really want these directional microphones to help you isolate the speaker who is making the query. And you want real-time data with powerful insights into your system. And also, you want this independent platform. You don't want a platform that is really just being provided to you as a way of leveraging your car for something else. You want to have an independent platform that is there to provide what you want rather than what the provider wants. And you want a system that's always learning, that's always improving. And you want to look for domains that are relevant to the auto industry. Does it already have things related to cars, to navigation, to controlling radio? All the things that a very generic voice system might not have.
Let's quickly look at how some of our auto partners are innovating with voice. Mercedes-Benz is already transforming the driving experience in their A-Class cars, which just launched in the US for the first time. The A-Class is their first model to feature the new voice-enabled MBUX infotainment system. Users get access to features and information such as navigation, weather, local recommendations, climate control, lighting, vehicle manual, and more. Top goals for Mercedes were: 1. Offer a customized experience that was an extension of their luxury brand, including having their own wake word, "Hey Mercedes." 2. Offer a natural and intuitive voice experience that delights users. They also wanted to create a more personal connection between the vehicle and the driver. A hybrid solution that enables vehicle control while offline, like windows and doors, and also respond to requests that needs cloud connectivity, like weather and restaurant recommendations. We're proud to be working with Honda to develop a fast and accurate voice assistant that will be integrated into multiple products, for example, cars and robots. Their goal is to support natural interactions, even highly complex ones, with speed and accuracy. Group PSA, one of the largest car manufacturers in Europe, is developing a hybrid voice interface for cars across their portfolio, including Peugeot, DS, Opel, and Vauxhall models. PSA wants to provide a fast and accurate voice experience that supports natural language. They also want to add ability to process natively, ensuring in-car safety and driving pleasure. Their goal is to bring original and truly helpful features to drivers and passengers. The voice assistant will be available in Europe starting as soon as 2020. Now moving on to Hyundai. South Korea's leading automakers started integrating the SoundHound music recognition app into their cars in 2014. The next innovation is building a voice assistant for their connected cars. Hyundai wants to significantly improve driver experience and make driving safer. They're also focusing on offering more localized and relevant information to drivers based on their location. If you'd like to add voice to your product, this is what you need from a voice AI platform. Most importantly, it must allow you to own your brand and user experience. For example, you need to be able to add custom wake words like "Hey Honda" or "Hey Mercedes." Second, needs to be able to understand even the most complex queries and context. For example, knowing user location and previous queries. It's also important that it's a hybrid solution that works well both online and when there is no internet connectivity. It must have high speed and accuracy in processing queries. It needs to allow brands to own and control their user data. It needs to have short time to market and ease of integration. It's important for the company to have a history of voice technology development with proven in-market solutions. At this point, I would like to briefly talk about our company, SoundHound Inc. We have over 13 years of expertise building voice AI solutions. We're the only independent platform provider that owns the entire stack. SoundHound is a global company with 9 offices in 6 countries. Our popular consumer apps, Hound and SoundHound, are powered by our Houndify platform. We have customers in many industries, including auto, retail, robotics, and mobile apps. Mobile apps and home entertainment with smart speakers are examples of very well-known use cases, but more are developing. For example, here is how some of our clients in other industries are incorporating voice. Pandora, the largest music streaming service in the US, has introduced new voice mode. It's a native smart assistant that allows listeners to control the mobile app. You can discover music, play, pause, and skip songs, and much more using simple voice commands. Anki, a consumer robotics company, is the maker of Vector, the home robot with personality. Houndify powers the Q&A feature, enabling a conversational interaction with the robot. You can ask Vector about many topics like the weather and general knowledge.
So I'd like to end with a quote from our CEO, Kayvon. He says, "Every company needs to have a voice-enabled AI strategy. Fast movers will create long-term value while slow movers will fall behind and fail." And this is just true of any shift, any paradigm shift that happens as technology changes. And I think we're all seeing now how this shift is going on right now. There's a shift in the way that people are interacting with their devices. We're at the early part of it, but that's when it's so important to make sure you have a good strategy and that your strategy is successful, because otherwise, when that shift happens, your customers are not going to be going to you. They're going to be going to the people who have the good strategy for that. So I'm excited about it, and it's not something to be afraid of. It's a great opportunity to put the right technology to use in your vehicle for this new future voice paradigm. And something to keep in mind is that this paradigm of voice is very different than previous user interaction paradigms. We all know the touch screen and how to do a touch screen interface. We've had years of working on that. Well, things are different in voice. You're not so much leading the user as you are with a touchscreen. With a touchscreen, you're presenting some information. They have some choices. They can click on something. They can touch this or that. You are leading them through a fixed set of choices. With voice, it's very different. With voice, it's much more open-ended. It's much more driven by the user. So you want to make sure that when you're designing an interface, you're not just saying, well, how do I take my touchscreen interface and let people say the things that they would have touched otherwise? You want to say, how do people speak? If they're talking to a person in the passenger seat who's controlling their car, how do they talk to that person? And when they talk to that person, can your car understand the way they would talk to that person? So let me talk for a second now about our approach at Houndify. So we are really focused on voice and nothing else. We're focused on our partners. We don't have some ulterior motive for making this voice platform available. This is what we do. This is all we do. We do voice AI. We do natural language understanding combined with speech recognition. And we really focus on customizing it for automakers and other partners, making sure that whatever they want their interface to be, whatever they want their interactions to be for their partners, for their customers, we want to make that happen. So we'll do whatever it takes. And we have a huge amount of technology already built. We have a huge number of domains already built, but we also will go in and we'll listen. We'll find out what is your vision for how your car interacts with your user, and we'll help you make that happen.
Thanks so much to Mehul and Chris for sharing your insights. And thank you to everyone who attended today's webinar. Since we're out of time, we'll follow up with you directly if you submitted any questions. To learn more about our voice AI platform, visit soundhound.com/automotive. You can also follow Houndify on Twitter to stay updated on the latest trends and innovations in voice. If you're in the auto industry, you may be interested in checking out the one-day Voice of the Car Summit on April 9 in San Francisco. Learn more at voiceofthecar.com. Thanks again for joining us.